Hello my dear students, good afternoon. I am sorry if that the program was delayed a bit thanks to some technical error. We have been able to solve the same, and we shall back with the news analysis. Today we shall discuss the last day of June 2020, June 30th news will be analyzed. So we shall straight away move on to the program. Ensure that no migrant worker goes hungry. Supreme Court instructs government gives note to CIPLA for import of Moderna's vaccine. So these are the two major news items that occupy June 30 Hindu. We shall take one by one. Government gives note to CIPLA to import Moderna's vaccine. It is going to be the fourth vaccine in India. We have got Covaxin, which is developed and manufactured within India, developed by Bharat Biotech, and developed by ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, and manufactured by Bharat Biotech. Covishield is developed by Oxford University, marketed by AstraZeneca and manufactured in India by the biggest pharmaceutical manufacturer, the Serum Institute of Pune. Sputnik vaccine is imported from Russia, and now the fourth vaccine has got node from the government, from the Drug Controller of India. The Drugs Controller of India has given permission to CIPLA, Bombay based CIPLA, to import Moderna vaccine. Three vaccines that we have just discussed now are also available, and India is now on talk with Pfizer and Johnson & Johnson for their vaccines. So by the end of this year, nearly 7 to 8 vaccines will be made available in India for vaccination. This is the time of corona and this is the time of vaccination. So all the vaccines that are used in India are in the limelight, so we must know details. Flying terror, this is the Hindu news editorial, we shall discuss that. Listen, the editorial of the Hindu refers to the use of drones attack on an Indian Air Force base in Jammu on June 28 and 29. The use of unmanned aerial vehicles UAV, autonomous weapon systems and robotic soldiers by states in warfare and policing has raised moral and practical questions. That is what the Hindu says. Now unmanned aerial vehicles are used for attack. It has already been used on many occasions. In 2018, Syrian rebels used drones to attack Russian military base in Syria. Then Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro had a narrow escape the same year in 2018, that too was a drone attack. In 2018, Houthi rebels bombed Saudi oil installations, Houthi rebels of Sudan. Those who have been watching this program all these days know where Houthi rebels operate. It's in Sudan, and they used to attack Saudi oil installations. There is a war going on between Sudan and Saudi Arabia. The existing international framework, there are existing international frameworks that control proliferation of technology that can be weaponized, but those agreements, covenants, etc. are too weak to control in reality the changing of technology to suit to weaponization. So the existing international framework for controlling the proliferation of technology that can be weaponized, such as Wassenaar Arrangement, that is an international understanding to prevent technology to be used for weapons, but those things are largely useless in the current changing scenario. So, what is required is a strong international message, international agreement that prevents technology getting converted into use as weapons. That is what the Hindu says. The second editorial, coming soon, new layers of censorship are a threat to the existing space for public discourse. Listen, world over governments are concerned about even public discourses. Elections are not a cure for victimization by even governments. The new layers of censorship are a threat to existing space for public discourse, says the Hindu. The draft Cinematograph Amendment Bill 2021, that is the agreement in question. Cinematograph Amendment Bill 2021, we discussed the same a few days ago, which has been put out for public comments. It is only a draft amendment bill now. Now government has invited public discourse on that. Soon it will become a bill and will be presented in front of the parliament, and once parliament passes it, it will become the act of parliament and the law of the country. It has a provision that allows central government to review recertification of a film which had already been certified by the Central Board of Film Certification, CBFC. Listen, we all know that whenever we watch a movie, in the opening there will be CBFC certification. It is an autonomous agency, Central Board of Film Certification. Every movie, once it completes its direction, will be submitted to CBFC for its certification. With the clearance of CBFC's certification, that the movie can be deemed. But now this particular Cinematograph Amendment 2021 draft bill seeks or provides for government's power to recertification of a film which has already been certified by CBFC. Filmmakers argue that this brings an additional censorship to the existing process. What is the existing process? Certification by CBFC. Now the draft bill asks for or provides for an additional censorship which is not with the right intent. In the month of April, look, in the month of April, government used an ordinance route, not the bill route through the parliament, through an ordinance route, scrapped Film Certification Appellate Tribunal, FCAT. Listen, a film is certified by CBFC. If the filmmaker has got a complaint against the decision of the CBFC, they could move Film Certificate Appellate Authority, FCAT. That is abolished. That was abolished in the month of April. It was a statutory body set up to hear appeals of filmmakers against decisions of CBFC. So these are all, when we see from a larger angle, these are all can be seen measures to put in more government control over opinion making. Even if cinema is opinion making. House panel questions Twitter. The Standing Committee on Information and Technology, chaired by Dr. Shashi Tharoor, sought explanation from Twitter why it has blocked Twitter accounts of the Information Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad and Dr. Shashi Tharoor, the Standing Committee Chairman on Information and Technology. We discussed it a few days ago. Twitter for 1 hour blocked the accounts of Dr. Shashi Tharoor and Ravi Shankar Prasad, IT Minister, and that is now has been taken up by the House Committee. The committee's stand is that social media platforms have to comply with the new IT rules 2021. the new IT rules 2021 is the law, are the law of the land, and they have to be complied with. That is a stand. Now the companies say that they would comply the rules as much as possible. Look, as much as they can. Facebook pointed out that it was technically impossible to interrupt messages in WhatsApp. They say that, but the new rules mandate tracing the origin of a particular message, if needed by the law enforcement agencies. But Facebook says that it is end to end encrypted, and WhatsApp does not check the messages or monitor the messages. It only sweeps metadata, and no messages are intercepted or read. That is a stand. Look, this is a major issue that the governments face these days. A new technology has emerged in no time, and even governments are in the learning curve on how to deal with them. Should people be given freedom to discuss without being intervened by the government, or should there be control by the government? Will it affect the right to privacy of people? These are the larger contexts that we have to keep in mind when we discuss the news. Atul Keshav is interim US charge d'affaires. The United States of America is yet to appoint a full-time ambassador to India, and that is a major issue. India is a major democracy. We used to say and consider that India is considered by US the real friend in South Asia, but the position of ambassador remains vacant in India. Atul Keshav is appointed US charge d'affaires in New Delhi. It is an interim appointment. Biden administration is still silent on a full-fledged Indian envoy. The White House is yet to send the nomination to Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti. Eric Garcetti is the Los Angeles mayor who is tipped to be the new ambassador to India, but Washington, the White House is yet to give it the name to the US Senate for its clearance. So New Delhi is also concerned that America has not appointed its full-time envoy, the US ambassador to India, till now. Israel's Lapid opens embassy in UAE. We know that Israel is an enemy to all the Arab nations in the West Asia and Africa. Last year, Israel established diplomatic relations with Bahrain and UAE, and now Israel has opened its embassy in UAE. UAE and Bahrain normalized relations with Israel last year. These were in the modern times, in recent times, these are the only two countries that have established and normalized relations with Israel, established diplomatic relations with Israel, UAE and Bahrain, and now that was called Abraham Accord. It was called Abraham Accord, and that was done at the initiative of the then US President Donald Trump. So as per the Abraham Accord, UAE and Bahrain normalized their relations with Israel, and now Israel has opened its embassy in the United Arab Emirates. This can be seen as a good gesture to normalize relations with Israel by the Arab community. Sudan and Morocco have since then tied with Israel. So another two countries, Sudan and Morocco, are African nations or both Islamic nations. UAE opened its embassy in Israel recently. So this is a reciprocation. Israel has opened its embassy in UAE. So diplomatic channels are established, hopefully we can find a solution to the longest problem, the real burning point, the boiling point of all conflict of the Western world with Islam. Tigray forces seize capital. Tigray is in Ethiopia, Tigray region. Tigrayan forces made further gains against Ethiopian government troops. It has ever since last November 2020 November, Tigrayan forces have been fighting the Ethiopian official government forces. TLPF, Tigrayan Liberal People Force, an ethnically based political party that dominated Ethiopia's national politics for 3 decades. TLPF has been a part of Ethiopian politics for the past 3 decades. Now of late they have been fighting the official Ethiopian government. Ethiopian president sent, prime minister sent national troops to suppress TLPF, and now they have been fighting back. They have taken control of a few provinces in Ethiopia. The fighting has forced around 2 million people to flee their homelands amid reports of ethnic cleansing, brutal gang rapes and mass killings of civilians. Take note of a major development in an African nation. Jacob Zuma gets 15 months in jail. Jacob Zuma is the former president of South Africa, and he was given 15 months jail for contempt of court. He was charged with enabling plunder of the state's wealth during his 9-year stint in power, and most of the money was given to big business conglomerates, a few Guptas who have Indian connections, and they have siphoned out money, and he was enabling such plunder of national wealth. So it was for that the case was originally charged, and he did not appear before the court, for which the government, the court has taken a contempt, initiated contempt proceedings, and he was given 15 months jail term. OPEC risks forcing India to tap Iran for oil if prices stay high. India has been asking OPEC nations, oil producing and exporting countries, to reduce international oil prices. We all know that petrol have crossed 100 in most part of the country, and even diesel has started crossing the 100 mark, which will create a kind of a cascading effect in the economy. The price of all things will go up, which is already taking its toll on people's pocket. So now for a few months ago, Government of India appealed to OPEC nations to reduce the price of oil. OPEC said, sorry, you have to use your strategic oil reserves. The Government of India says that is already consumed completely, it is already consumed. So the only way out is to reduce oil prices. OPEC has said no to it. Now a new development is taking place with the change in administration in the United States of America, with the new Biden administration. The relations with Iran may get normalized, and once it happens, American sanctions against Iran will be dropped, and that will give a chance for India to buy oil from Iran. If that happens, then the oil prices may come southwards, and that will be a boon to domestic economy too. Lanka banking on 1 billion India's swap deal. Listen, Sri Lanka has been in deep trouble for the past few years. It has received support blindly from China. China invested heavily in Sri Lankan Colombo port and all. Now Sri Lanka owes them billions and billions of dollars. Now in the next 6 months, Sri Lanka owes around 3 billion rather. In the next 6 months 3 billion is what Sri Lanka's commitment is. So, Sri Lanka has requested India, Sri Lankan President Gotabaya Rajapaksa had requested Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi to help country tide over its debt burden or improve its forex reserves by providing 1.1 billion. Sri Lanka is negotiating with the Reserve Bank of India. The SARC arrangement gives a window to Sri Lanka. Indian Reserve Bank may provide nearly 400 million assistance to Sri Lanka. So, this is how country gets entrapped. Now, Sri Lanka is trapped by China. During the past many years, Sri Lanka received a lot of money, investment from China. Now, they have to repay the money. What happens is that slowly China may even influence the politics of Sri Lanka, political decisions taken by the Sri Lankan government. Okay. So, thank you very much my dear students, follow all these news items, that is the way we have to proceed. See, the State Bank of India clerical examinations prelims would start on 10th. This is high time that you all start preparing, do maximum tests. We have already provided a few tests in the application, do them, make sure that you study very well, stay focused, and that is the way out. We shall meet again at 3 o'clock with another session of either QA math or reasoning. Till then, goodbye. Thank you.